What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Post-Gazette Steelers YouTube channel and podcast network. Ray Fittipaldo and Noah Hiles here on another Tuesday episode. This network is presented to you by FanDuel, as always. We got a lot to get into today, talking about the Steelers' first-round NFL playoff opponent, the Houston Texans. Going to look over their defense and all the things they do right and how the Steelers can potentially attack this aggressive unit. We're also going to talk about DK Metcalf. He spoke with the media on Monday at the practice facility. We're going to review what he had to say and see what kind of impact he can have on Monday when these two teams face off. But before we get into everything, I want to remind everyone that this show is presented to you by Pella. There's no better place to get windows and doors installed in your home than Pella, who can help you save on energy costs year-round. Schedule a free in-home consultation with your local Pella windows and doors to find the right product for your home and budget. Give us a call at 866-593-1560 to discuss your project further. That's 866-593-1560 to get started planning on your new windows and doors installation with Pella Windows and Doors of Pittsburgh. All right, Ray. The good news is, for Steelers fans, we're still talking about Steeler football on this Tuesday, right? They grinded out that thrilling win Sunday night. They have a Monday night matchup in the wild card round against the Houston Texans, a team that's entering this matchup winners of 9 straight. They have the best defense in the NFL, and that's going to be the storyline, I think, heading into this one. Their offenses are pretty similar if you look at where the Steelers and Texans rank in a lot of areas. But the difference here is, the Texans defense, I just want to rattle off some numbers here for you real quick. They lead the NFL in yards allowed per game, 277.2. They've only allowed 80 first downs this season, and only 27.6% of drives end in a score against the Houston Texans. Those are all NFL leading marks. They only allow 17.4 points a game. That's second best in the NFL. They force a lot of turnovers. They're second best in the NFL in turnover differential with plus 17. But you look in all areas of the game right now. They forced 29 turnovers. That's third best. Net passing yards per attempt, they're tied for third best, 5.3. Rushing yards per attempt, tied for sixth best with 4 yards a carry. And just 4.8 yards of an average play is tied for fourth best. So it's tough to move the ball on this team. It's tough to score on this team. It's tough to hold on to the football against this team. Ray, what are your immediate thoughts when you just look over the challenge ahead with this Houston Texans defense?
Yeah, well, the first thing I think about with the Houston Texans defense is their edge rushers. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter has been doing it for years. They are really dynamic. They get after the quarterback, and they can make it a long day for you if you allow them. Now, the good news for the Steelers is, we know that they have things in place to combat that. The Myles Garrett treatment would, something that, they can look at here in this game. I don't know that they would do it with the volume they would do it with Garrett, but I think depending on which rusher they feel like is most dangerous, I think they could deploy tight end or running back to that side to help chip. Now, the good news is you can limit their pass rush when you do that. The bad news is you potentially could take a guy like Kenneth Gainwell out of the pattern. So you saw that against Cleveland, only 3 catches for 12 yards. And then last week, Kenny was the leading receiver again with 64 yards. So he's such a huge part of your offense. I don't think that you want to do that. But even beyond that, Noah, like the Browns are known for having Myles Garrett. They're a good overall defense, but they're built around Myles Garrett. I don't even know if you could say the Texans are built around their edge guys. They're strong on the interior. They're strong, with their inside backers, with Stingley in the secondary and some other guys who can bring it and lay the wood back there. They're really talented in the back end as well. So there's a reason they're the league's #1 defense. And the Steelers are going to have a big task ahead of them on Monday night if they're going to come out with a win.
Yeah, I was looking. The Steelers' record against defenses that finish the regular season ranked in the top 10 is 3-4. They have wins over the Browns once. They beat the Patriots, and then they beat the Vikings, and then they lost to, I believe it was the Bills, the Seahawks, the Browns, and who's the other one I'm forgetting? I don't know. Not important. But so they have found a way to beat these teams is the point that I guess I'm trying to make. But what you mentioned, Ray, is this is going to be an interesting matchup. I don't know if there's a better pass rushing duo in the NFL right now than Hunter and Anderson. I mean, they've combined for 26 of their team's 47 sacks. It's pretty good. And then you look, like you said, in the secondary too. I mean, this is a really good secondary. With Stingley gets a lot of the headlines, but I mean, I think his last name is Lassiter. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's putting up really good numbers this season as well. So it's not like they can just have a Denzel Ward on your top option. They can just play to the sides, and it's going to be tough. I don't know if this is a game where you can sacrifice a Kenneth Gainwell to have additional protection, or a Jalen Warren, or a Jonnu Smith, or a Pat Freiermuth. It feels like those are the guys you're going to need out in the open field trying to score points, because they're going to take away a lot of your primary options on those plays. So Ray, I mean, let's wrap up this first part of the show with that. It's, where do you find that balance on protection, obviously? Because I think overall they've done a really good job at protecting Rodgers this year.
Yeah.
Aside from 1 or 2 games, he's had solid time to throw, regardless of who's healthy on that offensive line. But at what cost, right? Are you going to sacrifice a Kenneth Gainwell or a Pat Freiermuth, because Jonnu Smith probably not the best blocker in that tight end room? I feel like you need those guys if you're going to try to score points and win this game.
I think the Steelers are going to have to be really, really patient in this football game, Noah. And what I mean by that is the Texans are an excellent tackling team. So you're not going to be able to flick it to Gainwell and Warren in the flat, and for those guys to have a lot of yards after the catch. Now, I mean, I'll take those guys one-on-one, and maybe they'll win a few of them. But for the most part, especially with the way the Texans just rally to the ball, it's going to be hard to get those big plays with those short passes and the long runs. That's going to be a big task this week for the Steelers to do that. So I think they're going to have to be really efficient. You're probably not going to have time to spring DK Metcalf on a lot of deep balls. So you're probably going to have to throw slants to him, throw it short to him, see if he can, use his physical nature to maybe grind out some first downs. But there's going to be a lot of 3rd and 4s, 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 2s in this game. And it's going to be up to Aaron Rodgers to get them into good plays so you can convert them, you can sustain drives, and then you can keep the Texans offense off the field. So I think that's the type of game that it's going to be. I think it's going to be another low-scoring game. You mentioned, the Texans offense is okay, but you got Nico Collins. Stroud is kind of the same player he was as a rookie and hasn't really blossomed into a top 5 QB. I think he's still really good. I think he's top 10-ish, quarterback in the NFL, but he's not a guy who I think can put a team on his shoulders. And their running game is just average. So when you boil it down, I think there's going to be limited possessions in this game if both teams get to play the way they want to play. And then it's going to be about maximizing those drives. Do you got to kick field goals? Can you score touchdowns? Or is this going to be a game where you have to punt a lot? This might be a game where you have to punt a lot, and it's going to be 17-13. And if you win it that way, that's okay, Noah, but you have to be prepared to play in that type of a football game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think this is going to be a rock fight. I mean, that's, I think, how the Steelers are going to win it. I don't see them, the thing that you just mentioned, the Texans' ability to tackle. I forget where I heard it, but I believe Gainwell and Warren combined for 17 broken tackles on Sunday night.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
You're not going to be able to get by on that. And so if you don't have that option to just kind of dump it off in the flat and turn a 2-yard play into a 9-yard play, I mean, you've got to figure out something else. And I don't know if you're going to be able to attack the seam like they did when Kyle Hamilton went down too. I mean, it's going to be a tricky puzzle to solve here. I think that it's probably the equivalent of the challenge that they faced with Cleveland, just because they didn't have, I don't think this defense I think this defense is better than Cleveland's, but they didn't have DK Metcalf for that game. So they have an extra weapon, but they're facing a better unit. So there's going to be a lot of challenges ahead. And that's why they get paid a lot of money to try to figure them out. So a big guy who's going to play a part in that potential equation to figure it out is DK Metcalf. We're going to talk about him when we return. Talking Steelers-Texans here on the Post-Gazette Sports YouTube channel, Steelers YouTube channel. The Steelers, per our friends at FanDuel, are 3.5-point underdogs Monday night. You can get them on the money line at plus 152. I believe that was the same line that was for Sunday night, Ray. I believe they were 3.5 dogs against the Ravens. And I mean, you're just going with betting logic, right? I mean, there's the Mike Tomlin home underdog is always a very popular pick among the NFL betting community. And the Steelers have that Monday night home record that's in jeopardy. I don't know if that includes is this their first ever Monday night playoff game?
I would have to look it up. No, wasn't that Cleveland game a Monday night game?
I'll tell you what, that year every day was Monday. So
they played on Wednesdays. They played on pretty much every day of the week except for a Friday that year. But something rings a bell that maybe that Browns game.
It might have been. That might have been. So if that was the case, then maybe that streak doesn't include postseason performances. So, but nonetheless, they have a good track record playing at home on Monday night. Mike Tomlin obviously has a good track record playing games where he's a home underdog. So, notes to keep in mind when you look at their odds at plus 3.5 and the money line at plus 152 on FanDuel. But Ray, we mentioned it in the last segment. DK Metcalf is a big part of this equation. They managed to get by without him. They go 1-2 or 1-1, excuse me, in the 2 games where he was suspended. The offense looked really good in the fourth quarter without him. And honestly, in the second quarter, they started moving the football halfway through without him. They didn't finish drives the way they probably would have liked to, but they really only had one bad quarter of offense against Baltimore. But again, tougher task. DK's back to try to help it out. Before we get into the way he could potentially impact this game, you were there at the facility on Monday when he talked to reporters for the first time since his suspension. I know he couldn't answer any questions about that suspension, even though he was asked about it like 7 times. What did you have to take away from his media availability?
Yeah, well, we didn't really get the answers as far as why he did it. He didn't go into any details on that sort of stuff. The only thing he would say was he was surprised the NFL didn't, cut it back to a game.
Yep.
But that's really as far as he would go. The more interesting thing was when Calvin Austin caught that touchdown, he told us he jumped off his couch, he got dressed, he got in his car, and he started driving towards Acrisure Stadium. Now, if you try to leave that stadium when thousands of fans are leaving, I think everyone kind of knows what it's like down there, the gridlock.
Oh, yeah.
He couldn't get to the stadium. So eventually he ends up calling Daryl Young, who was like the Steelers director of player development. And DY tells him, hey, everyone went home. They're gone. Why don't you turn around and go back home? So yesterday was actually the first time he got to see his teammates since he was suspended. He was actually allowed in the facility to train on his own last week, but he wasn't allowed in meetings and wasn't allowed to be around the team. So all of his teammates yesterday, very happy to see him. They had his back in this situation. And, it's kind of funny, Noah. It's kind of like you're getting an injured player back. You're getting a very good player back for a playoff game after you haven't played with him for the past 2 football games. So I think in an odd way, you're kind of jump-starting your offense to a certain extent.
Yeah, and I think, if they had back-to-back performances like they did in Cleveland, right? If that persisted for 2 games and they won like a 9-6 rock fight on Sunday night, it'd be one thing. But the fact that they figured out a way to move the football without him for the first time this year. I mean, it took them 6 quarters to figure it out, but in a pretty big injury, I think, in the Baltimore secondary. But I think that's a boost when you say, like, okay, well, we don't necessarily need him on the field to move the football. We figured out a way to get Pat Freiermuth more involved a little bit. We can rely, obviously, on Gainwell and Warren, and the other receivers stepped up last weekend too. I mean, with MVS and Thielen making some big catches. Calvin Austin obviously had a pair of huge catches late in the fourth quarter. Scotty Miller was involved a little bit. So I agree with you that offense, I don't know if it looked better for the circumstances being considered in that fourth quarter against the Ravens, and to add on someone who has a higher ceiling than anyone else in that room. That's a boost. Now, how do you use them, though, is the question, because, I mean, I don't anticipate them just putting Stingley on him for all 60 minutes. They'll probably just, I mean, they, like we said earlier in the show, their corners are good enough where they don't have to do that. But at the same time, he's getting elite matchups. And there have been times this year where he's faced off against really good corners and kind of struggled to make an impact on the football game. How big is it for DK Metcalf to win these one-on-one matchups on Monday? Is that what it's really going to come to offensively?
Yeah, listen, the Texans are good enough that they will take some chances, and they will single up either Stingley or Lassiter on him on an occasion. And when that happens, you better believe Aaron Rodgers is going to target DK Metcalf. And it's up to DK to come down with some of those. Now, he's not going to win all of those. And I think if there's been a consistent criticism of DK this season, he's not really good in the air. He's not really good on 50-50 balls. He's more of a guy where if you lay it out there in front of him on a deep ball, he's going to run under it because he's so fast. Or if you throw it to him on short slants or throw it to him in the short game, he's so fast and he's so physical that he's going to grind out first downs for you. He's the leader for the Steelers in first downs, in receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns. So it's a huge addition here for the Steelers. But I got a feeling that they are going to take their chances once in a while. And when that happens, DK Metcalf has to come through and has to make some big plays for the Steelers to be in this football game.
They're absolutely going to need him to come through. So, and want to remind everyone as well that this show is presented to you by Goldberg, Persky, and White. If you were diagnosed with mesothelioma or lung cancer, call your local attorneys at Goldberg, Persky, and White. For over 40 years, our firm has represented thousands of lung cancer and mesothelioma victims. Call 1-800-COMPLEX or visit gpwlaw.com for free consultation. Ray, final thoughts here as we prepare. I mean, we're going to hear Mike Tomlin speak later today. How do you think he is going to approach this game as far as his rhetoric is concerned?
Well, no, I'm sure you've noticed, because I think it's been a big part of them winning 4 of their final games, 4 of the final 5 games. I think you're going to continue to see Mike Tomlin be aggressive. That was a big story, in the first Ravens game, in the Lions game. 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. I thought it was huge that they got stopped on the tush push early, and then he wasn't afraid to go back to it. And that didn't deter him from wanting to continue to be aggressive. So I think that's kind of been almost like a late season identity for them to be aggressive in those situations. And if you're going to sustain drives against the Texans and you're in 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, you're going to have to win some of those, quite frankly, to win this football game. So I like where the Steelers are in that regard. It's going to be a physical football game. I think these two teams are very similar in that way. The Texans are going to come up and hit you. And, we've seen late in the season, Alex Highsmith, Jack Sawyer. Now you got TJ Watt back screaming off the edge. This is going to be a tough game for either team to be able to run the football well. So everything you would want in an AFC football game, gritty, tough, defensive matchup, and I'm looking forward to Monday night.
Absolutely, as am I. And we'll be there to cover it. Check out all of our coverage at post-gazette.com. Check out our print product. We print on Thursdays and Sundays. And keep following along here on the Post-Gazette Steelers YouTube channel and podcast network, where we have you covered every day heading up to game day. Take care.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.